Ferrari arrives in Barcelona with a clear goal to recover what the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile Directive seemed to have taken away from it. And it does so with a revised front wing, designed to get an SF25 back on track, which in recent weeks has shown signs of life. But beware, this is not the revolution, it's just a first step, and in the meantime the clock doesn't stop. If you like the videos, hit like to support me, and now let's get started right away. The second place. Leclerc's position in Monaco has hidden the true picture of a Ferrari that, despite the podium, continues to chase. The prancing horse is still fourth among the constructors, but with gaps that have reduced. 1 point from Red Bull, 5 from Mercedes. It's nothing, but it's also everything because it indicates how much margin remains to be recovered so as not to settle for a season as a supporting role. Barcelona is the perfect theatre to understand if the new front wing, designed to circumvent the losses imposed by the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile Directive on flexibility, will really work. The feeling in the racing department is positive. It seems that the aerodynamicists have found a way to replicate the effect of the old wing, respecting the new technical limits. But all of this still has to pass. Vasseur's track judgment, after weeks of sending subtle messages to McLaren, has toned down. He knows that a lot is decided here, but also that the real news, the important ones, are still far away. New fund, maybe in Canada or Austria. Rear suspension only at Silverstone, long times too long. If the comparison is with a McLaren that updates at every Grand Prix inside Maranello, someone has asked to speed up. The group led by the OXR is under pressure because there's a feeling that the moment is being lost, and there's little to discuss here. Whoever in Formula 1 today does not update is already a step back. The technical implications are numerous. The new regulation imposes stricter static tests. Less flexibility means loss of load in slow sections. But if Ferrari has really recreated the previous balance, then it can take advantage of the advantage on the dry lap and reduce degradation in the race. If instead the effect is only partial, the risk is double losing effectiveness in the curve without gaining anything in stability. And meanwhile, the competition is moving. McLaren awaits the verdict of the track. Red Bull is struggling in the slow sections. Mercedes continues to swerve between a circuit and the other. The Spanish Grand Prix could be the first real watershed of the season. Words are no longer enough. If the new wing doesn't work in Barcelona, the problem isn't the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile. The problem is that Ferrari is still chasing and the World Championship waits for no one. The technical directive TD018, which imposes new limits on the flexing of the front wings, has forced all teams to intervene. But Ferrari had already circled this date in red on the calendar. It's not a coincidence. The goal was to introduce the wing right here, on the weekend when the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile starts measuring with new standards. Now, the static tests are much more stringent. 220 pounds of maximum weight applied to measure a flexion that cannot exceed 0.39 inches per side. Before it was 15. Even the flaps under 13.22774 pounds can no longer flex more than 0.118 inches against the previous 5. The technical team from Maranello, with Loic Serra and Diego Tondi in charge, has completely redesigned the internal structure of the wing. The crossed carbon fibers have been rethought to ensure rigidity and comply with the new parameters. But it's not just a structural modification. Aerodynamically, the end plate has been redesigned with a more wavy shape, similar to what was seen in the past on the Haas, to try to maintain performance even with a more restrictive regulation. The junction area between the upper flaps and the side walls has also been rethought. The point is that this update comes alone, isolated, without the support of the promised mechanical developments. The new floor and the revised rear suspension are postponed, and it's not a strategic choice, it's a delay. Those who work in Maranello would have wanted an acceleration, but at the moment there are no margins. The pressure is now all on the shoulders of the team led by Serra. Fred Vasseur keeps a low profile, but the message is clear, continuity is needed. After Monaco and Barcelona, it's a very tough test. McLaren has raised the bar, and Red Bull, despite difficulties, will not disappear from the fight. So either the SF25 starts to react immediately, or the gap risks becoming structural. The real risk is that, without immediate progress, Ferrari may be forced to watch its back instead of chasing those ahead. Mercedes is there, close, and if the upgrade package doesn't arrive in time, the season could turn into a defensive chase. And this, after months of proclamations and internal promises, would be a failure that can no longer be masked. On paper, it's a 30% reduction in the allowed flexibility. But here we're not just talking about numbers, we're talking about design philosophy. Because flexible wings have been one of the worst kept secrets in Formula 1 for years. At low speeds, they generate load in a straight line, flex and reduce resistance. It's all legal, as long as it falls within the static tests. But now, everything changes, and the question is simple, who really loses? Ferrari is convinced they can gain. In Maranello, they believe that this move will penalize McLaren more than anyone else, but in Woking, they don't seem worried. In fact, the feeling is that they are already ready, because everyone has had time to work on new specifications. Taking advantage of the postponement of the rule introduction decided precisely for reasons related to the budget cap. And here comes the real knot: who has worked better in the shadows? Who has managed to build a wing that seems rigid in tests, but that in reality continues to behave flexibly on the track, respecting the regulations? Because yes, it is still possible. If the deformations are distributed, if the hand plate works in a programmed way, if the material reacts in the right way, you can still gain advantages and be perfectly within the limits. This is where the real game will be played. The first clues will already arrive in the free trials. We will see who has lost load in the slow curves, who had to raise the wing and lose efficiency on the straight, who had to modify the aerodynamic balance, with obvious compromises. Ferrari has introduced a new front wing for this very reason, but as we know, a wing alone is not enough. The directive is an excuse to test the real capabilities of the technical departments. And if someone collapses in Barcelona, it will be clear who had built their entire package around borderline flexibility. The new regulation reduces the allowed deflection. With 220 pounds applied at precise points of the wing, you cannot exceed 0.39 inches on both sides. While the flaps must withstand a load of 13.22774 pounds, bending a maximum of 0.118 inches. We're talking about a clean break from the past. The flexion will be reduced by 30%, and the only question is how many performances will be sacrificed. Ferrari comes with a completely redesigned front wing and also a high-load rear one. Red Bull has updated its configuration. Mercedes, on the other hand, has already tested the new specification in Imola and Monaco, but without convincing results. The car usage window has narrowed, and now in Brackley, they are talking about compromises between qualifying and racing. And beware, the rear suspension that failed in Imola is back on track. Another test to understand if that technical failure is recoverable or if a radical change is needed. Whoever comes out unscathed or even gains can say they have won one of the subtlest battles of the season, that between physics, regulation and interpretation. And it won't be a small detail. Here, Ferrari is under pressure. After Imola, the top brass made their voices heard. John Elkann and Benedetto Vigna summoned Fred Vasseur to ask for clarity. And above all, acceleration. Leclerc's second place in Monaco has calmed the waters, but the situation remains critical. The results are below expectations and McLaren is out of reach. Now the fight is for second place, but a sprint is needed immediately. Hamilton is contributing, but it's clear that he hasn't yet found the feeling, with the SF25. Leclerc, on the other hand, continues to drive above the problems. But it's not sustainable to do it for an entire season. The top brass don't want to wait for Silverstone to see the new suspension, and they've given the okay to strengthen the technical team. We need real experience, we need a change of pace. Now for the time being, in Barcelona, we will only see the new front wing adapted to the TD018 directive. An important change, certainly, but isolated. Vasseur had spoken of a possible realignment with McLaren, but he has toned down, because everyone knows. The others have already adapted too. And the underlying problem remains: Ferrari is slower in development, slower than Red Bull, slower than McLaren. The new fund will arrive in Austria. The rear suspension, the most anticipated, will not be seen before Silverstone. Too late. Perhaps yes, because every race loss now means heavy points in the constructors. The modification is complex. Marco Civinelli's staff is reviewing the design of the arms to provide stability during braking, where the rear tends to lift and stabilize the car. Loic Serra, a key man for vehicle dynamics, believes in it a lot, but first we need to go through simulations, construction, bench tests. Everything takes time, and time is exactly what Ferrari doesn't have. So in Maranello, they are considering skipping the dynamic test to bring the package to the track as early as June. Some of the staff working on the 2026 single-seater have been urgently recalled to the SF25. It's a race against time. And while the car is being worked on, there is also a hunt for new engineers. After the refusal of Pino Pesce from McLaren, reinforcements are being sought for the aerodynamic team led by Diego Tondi, which has lost key members. The young ones are there, but what's missing is experience, and without experience you can't win challenges. Now someone is needed to raise the bar, because the time for projects is over. Now only the result matters, and every delay, every compromise, every development that comes late. It could be the death blow for a season that was supposed to be a relaunch and risks becoming another missed opportunity. Directive TD018 goes into effect. And as always happens when something changes mid-season, there's one certainty: Ferrari starts with bated breath. Every time there has been a technical modification, the red has always struggled. And Barcelona is not just any track, it's a circuit where a balance between aerodynamics and mechanics is needed. A truly complete car is needed, and the SF25 is not yet. Mercedes arrives in Barcelona with more doubts than certainties. After the disaster in Monaco, the team is called to react. But the real problem was not just the 0-0, it's how it came about. Saturday, everything went wrong. First, Antonelli's mistake in Q2, then the electrical problem with Russell's V16, a short circuit blew everything. Battery drained, qualification over. And on a track like Monaco, starting from behind means only one thing: you're already out of the game. Sunday was the turn for strategy. Mercedes made the 2 mandatory pit stops only in the last laps. A choice that has raised controversies and ironies even from Toto Wolff, but which, according to the team, was conscious and calculated. Bradley Lord made it clear. They were hoping for a safety car or a red flag that could change the game. It didn't come, and the mess is served. Now we're going to Barcelona and the atmosphere is tense. Here the TD018 on the flexibility of the front wings comes into effect. And for a team that has already struggled to find balance, the challenge becomes more complicated. Mercedes has already tried a new wing specification at Imola and Monaco, but the results were not encouraging. And with the new directive, the ideal aerodynamic window narrows even further. Bradley Lord said it without beating around the bush. It will be more difficult to find the balance. Now a car is needed that holds together 2 opposite things: precision in slow curves and stability in fast ones. And on the V16, these 2 things seem to exclude each other. The team will bring updates, yes, but they will be marginal steps, not revolutions. After 4 years with the same regulations, finding tenths is increasingly complicated, but at least something is needed to stop the bleeding. In Imola, Miami, and Jeddah, Mercedes did well in qualifying but then collapsed in the race, and that's exactly where the points are needed. Barcelona, more than any other stop so far, it will be a total technical test. Between new rules, high aerodynamic sensitivity, stable temperatures, and hard compounds, there will be no excuses. If Mercedes doesn't find answers here, then the problem is deeper and may not be solvable during the race. Adrian Newey has started his new chapter at Aston Martin, and after just 2 months, he has already done what no one else had the courage to do. He dismantled the team's technical system point by point. He did it in Monaco without mincing words. And there's no need to read between the lines. He has already understood where the limits are and where he can make a difference. For 2026, Newey doesn't hide and doesn't mince his words. When asked about the future of Max Verstappen and the rumors that want him in Aston Martin in 2026, he cut it short. There's no point in dreaming. The message is clear: if anyone was expecting a plot twist in the short term, they can stop waiting. But the real point is not if Verstappen will leave, it's when. Because behind that diplomatic phrase, there is a reality that everyone in the paddock knows. Max's contract expires in
2028, but
it contains clauses related to competitiveness. If Red Bull messes up the 2026 car, and it's not a scenario to exclude given the regulatory revolution, Verstappen can free himself. And at that point, Aston Martin becomes a real option. Newey knows him too well not to say it openly. Max is a simple beast. He just wants a fast car, nothing else. No politics, no long-term projects, no romanticism, just speed. And in this, Verstappen is crystal clear. If he sees a team that has the best car, he will go there. Period. Today, Aston Martin has not yet won a race, it is a team under construction. But in 2026, with the new regulation, the values could change. And the Newey-Verstappen link, which led to one of the most dominant eras of modern Formula 1, could be reborn in other colors. In the meantime, the real leading man for Aston remains Alonso. He will still be the reference for 2026. And here Newey gives in to a personal regret. I regret never having worked with Hamilton and Alonso. Now I have the chance to make up for it, at least in part. A sincere mission and a clear signal of how much he still believes in Fernando's potential. So yes, Verstappen won't go green right away, but the door is ajar. And if Red Bull fails in 2026 Newey, and Lawrence Stroll will have a sensational card to play. Because Max is simple, yes, but he is also ruthless. And if he smells that elsewhere there is a faster car, he will be the first to jump. Let's start with what works. The new Silverstone headquarters is a gem, a state-of-the-art technical center, the result of Lawrence Stroll's crazy investment. The wind tunnel is among the best in Formula 1, perhaps the best overall. A 60,000 cubic meter facility with 3D printing machines, a 60% scale modeling department, and an operational efficiency that few can afford. But there's a flaw, and Newey pointed it out right away. The simulation area is where Aston Martin is losing ground today. And the question he also asks is simple. Is the problem the technology or the configuration? Because the simulator can also be expensive, modern, but if it's poorly calibrated, it becomes useless. And if those who manage it don't know how to exploit it, it becomes a hindrance. And this is the difference between having tools and knowing how to use them. And Newey, who has always wanted full freedom on technical partnerships in his teams, is not one to accept compromises. At Red Bull, he built everything around himself. He left McLaren because they didn't allow him to do so. Here at Aston Martin, he demands control and he is already getting it. By 2025, there will be no revolution, but the 1% he is dedicating to the current project is enough for him to understand where to intervene. The real work is on 2026 there, it will be a whole different story. Newey clearly stated that studying the technical regulations, he changed his mind. He believed that creative freedom was too limited. Instead, he found the cracks, the famous gray areas, those from which he always pulled out winning cars. He did it in 2009, he did it again in 2022, and now he is ready to do it with the AMR26. His words leave little room for doubt. In 2026, we will see very different aerodynamic philosophies. Those who interpret the regulations well, those who dare can emerge. And he has already figured out how. History has shown us that every time there is a technical revolution, Newey is not only ready, he is already ahead. So no, Aston Martin is not a top team today, but it will be if Newey has free reign, and if the simulator is corrected, it can become one. The real unknown is not Adrian, it's everything else. If the team is up to the genius they have hired, then 2026 will be their year zero. And those who believe that Newey went there for money will soon change their minds. If you like the video, subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss the upcoming Right to Me. What do you think in the comments? And see you next time.